Hi everyone, how are you? It is me, Fern. Welcome back to a new video. For many of you that watch my channel would know that I love all things fashion and designer bags, and I have a small collection of designer bags in my wardrobe which I love and I also use regularly. I appreciate good designer bags and I also try my best to use them and incorporate them into my daily life, and I am always of the belief that if there's something you love, you should use it daily. I feel like now that I have had experience using some of these designer bags, I can give my honest thoughts on their practicality and how useful they are in day-to-day life. So over the past couple of years, I've been doing a bit of travel, either domestically or internationally, and I've had a chance to use different bags for my travel. One of the iconic bags that I have in my collection is the Louis Vuitton Keepall. So I have a Louis Vuitton Keepall 55, and this bag, being the 55, is 55 centimeters across, so it is on the larger side. I've used this bag for international and domestic travel as well as road trips, and I thought I'd give my honest thoughts about how practical this bag is for travel and whether you can use it on a daily basis. With this bag, I feel like there was a perception I had of it when I originally got it, and the reality of traveling and moving around with the Keepall has been slightly different, so I am keen to share my honest thoughts. So before I got the Keepall, I used to use soft shell suitcase bags for travel, whether that's international or domestic flights. So for shorter trips where I'm only spending a couple of days, I'd use a small suitcase, so one of the small cabin size suitcases, and then for anything that is a bit longer, I would use a larger suitcase. When I was looking to buy the Keepall for a very long time, I always had this perception that the Keepall was this fun, durable travel bag, which I still think it is, but I also want to share the realities of owning the Keepall and traveling with it. Having used it on long-haul flights, short-haul domestic flights, and also on road trips, I feel like it fits different types of travel and it works very differently depending on how you travel. The first thing I want to talk about with the Keepall is the practicality. So the 55 that I have is massive. It is a huge bag and this is very practical. I can definitely fit enough clothes, toiletries, a pair of shoes, and my iPad in this bag, and that will last me for 3 to 4 days, so almost a week. So I could do a week-long trip with just the Louis Vuitton Keepall if I pack light, and I think that I find very, very useful. So this bag is definitely practical. The other thing I like about it as well is it's essentially just like one giant cavernous pocket. So I've stuffed mine right now with cushions inside, but when you unzip it, inside, there are no compartments, there's no dividers or anything. It is just one giant cavernous space. So if you are filling it with just clothes and sort of softer items, it's quite practical in that sense. I know some people buy bag organizers for their Keepalls, and that does help with keeping structure to the bag, but I tend to like mine being a bit more slouchy and I just dump everything in there when I'm traveling. So the practicality side of things is really good. I think if you're looking for an alternative to a small suitcase, something like this is perfect. Now, with the size and practicality, I think this also ties hand in hand with one of the bigger drawbacks of this bag, which is the weight. So when you're packing this up, it can get very, very heavy. So I've used this Keepall in airports, taking it on international long-haul flights, and I've also taken it on domestic flights as well. And one thing that didn't cross my mind, and this is very silly on my part, is that the bag gets incredibly heavy. So with the Keepall, mine is the bandolier, so it comes with a shoulder strap. I had to change the shoulder strap. So the original shoulder strap that comes with the Keepall is the same vachetta leather as what's on the bag. So it's this vachetta leather strap that essentially attaches to this and you put it over your shoulder. I found the original strap quite painful, especially when I filled up this bag with a lot of stuff. So I actually swapped it out with this fabric strap, which is a little bit thicker. And this has been significantly more comfortable for me to use. But even then, the Keepall can get so heavy that I wouldn't even recommend using it on the shoulder most of the times. It would be good if you're, say, stopped and you have to use two hands. You can pop it on your shoulder for a second, but running around and walking around an airport with this on your shoulder, at least for me, I found it incredibly painful. So I just carry it by the handles at the top. With that saying, it does get very heavy. So mine is the 55 size. So the Keepall traditionally comes in 45, 50, 55, and 60. So mine is quite literally the second from the largest size. So the bag can get incredibly heavy, especially when I've got, say, a pair of shoes in the bag and, you know, my toiletries, all of my stuff, it can be a bit burdensome. So that has been my experience using this bag in an airport. The times where I've taken this bag on a road trip, it has been a lot more manageable. So I think this is where the Keepall shines, at least for me and the way that I travel. I sometimes do road trips interstate, and in Australia, road trips can be quite long. So being able to pack a lot is very useful. I think this bag, the times where I've enjoyed using it is when I'm traveling interstate to visit friends or family and I'm driving and I just have it next to me with the top open and I've just got my items in there, maybe some snacks, a bottle of water. So when I'm driving, having this right next to me in the passenger seat has been perfect. I think when it comes to how you travel, there is a time and place for the Keepall, and I think for me, using it on a road trip is perfection, and I think that's where it shines for me. So on the topic of the best use cases for the Keepall, with a lot of airlines, they have restrictions on what you can carry in the cabin. And I'm pretty sure, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows, pop it down in the comments, but I'm pretty sure the 55 is sort of the largest Keepall size that you can take as a carry-on before it gets too big. So I think the 60 is too big to carry on most airlines. With the 55, I've definitely taken it on both international and domestic flights in the cabin. It's just that it definitely will not fit under the seat. So you do have to put it in the overhead compartment, which for me, it's fine. I really wouldn't want this squished underneath a seat anyway. But on flights, it can be a bit restrictive. So if that's something that you want to consider, definitely look at getting the 45 size instead, which is a little bit smaller. For me, international flights, I've had no issues putting it in the overhead locker. Same with domestic flights, but in terms of the best way to travel with a Keepall, for me personally, I love using it on road trips. For me, it's a perfect weekender bag that I can throw in the boot or put it next to me in the seat when I'm driving, especially if I'm doing like a solo road trip. This is a perfect travel companion in that sense. There are times, and I feel like this depends on my mood, but there are times where I'm actually quite happy carrying this bag through airports if it's not too heavy. So if it's for shorter trips where I've packed less, I think this is quite manageable, but the times where I've gone on international flights, it has been a little bit cumbersome. Just have a think about your lifestyle and how you travel, whether you prefer flights, long haul travel, road trips. I can only imagine that traveling with the Keepall on a train would be quite nice as well. So I know here in Australia where I live, there are quite a few train options, especially if you're going interstate. There are sleeper trains where you can stay on board overnight. And I think a bag like the Keepall is perfect for that. So I think travel where you're not having to lug around luggage through like a terminal, for me, I think is probably the best way to use this bag. Now, another thing that I'll just mention with the Keepall, and this is just maybe a subconscious thing with me, is that the bag is obviously not very discreet. So especially in the monogram canvas, which mine is in, and I've also got little twillies tied around the handle. So this bag can be quite loud. I think, again, and this is tying back to using this bag at an airport versus a road trip, is that when you're carrying around a Keepall at the airport, it is quite loud, and I do tend to feel a little bit hesitant to just pop it down on a seat while I go off to order a coffee or buy a meal. It's the type of bag that probably requires a little bit more care and attention when you are traveling. So that's just something to be wary of. It's not a discreet bag at all. When I go on road trips, I feel less terrified, I guess, to carry it around because I can, just pop it next to me in the car while I'm driving, or if I have someone with me, like a road trip buddy, it's just in the back seat. And we're usually just stopped for short periods of time just to get petrol or get a meal. For me, I'm always just a tiny bit more careful, which is really funny because I have an Hermes Her bag, which I'm actually less paranoid taking out to an airport compared to this, just because the Hermes is a little bit more of a quiet, understated bag, so I don't feel as paranoid carrying it around. That's just how I feel with traveling with the Keepall. It is definitely a fantastic bag. I think with traveling with the Keepall, there are wonderful things about it, and there's a reason why I bought it, and it's definitely a dream bag of mine from a very long time ago, so being able to have it in my collection is really exciting. But I am aware of some of the, I guess, shortcomings of having a Keepall. Have a think about how you travel and your comfort level with using one, and see if it works for your lifestyle. I know for me, I love the Keepall and I still use it, and I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see any more videos on any of my other designer bags, or any thoughts on fashion, or any of the other content that I do, like travel, vlogs, my modeling, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to know. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, definitely hit subscribe and check out my other content. I'd love to see you around. I hope to see you all in a future one. Bye.